It's like your 50th wedding anniversary.
Hello.
What's going on, sir?
How are you?
Yeah, I'm Adam.
I gotta bend this guy's ear for a minute. Emergency.
What's up, man?
So, did you get the
How are you?
email I sent you about a month ago?
Well, you sent me either a text or an email, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
So
Well, you
we're,
must have got it, because here you are.
yeah, man.
Cool.
Well, I don't think I'd be able to. I don't have too many opportunities to get down to Farmington for a meeting like this, but for Durango, it's a little more reasonable for me.
Yeah, good.
How's your knee, man?
It's better. It's better. It only bothers me when I play hockey, so I decided to retire. Otherwise, I have to get it operated on and go through the physical therapy and all that. I'm 66. Time to hang it up.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Man,
can
I
stay
don't-
busy with other stuff.
Do what you like,
It just
man.
rolls off my tongue easier than Mike's. Whose other name that?
She's got headphones on. You'll be all right.
SpaceX.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We got this guy too. You don't got it.
I bet. I went with us. The rest of the round crew. So it was a nice track.
They had a lunch today. I got chewed out.
No.
Great.
This is all on the back. I'm doing gray, or sorry, dark gray.
Tonight.
You did.
I fulfilled my duties.
Save it.
You should call him. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Down here, I see him stay at our house. Yeah, he does a 1 week or 2 week motorcycle
I saw someone
vacation.
ride side by side
Every
every
year,
day.
and he rides around.
You still have to stick a motorcycle.
He's 76 years old. He's got a motorcycle.
Oh, no.
In fact, if you saw me on that
Slingshot
day,
side by side.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I realize people are talking right now.
Stan and his wife.
All they can see is that picture. They can't.
Doesn't remember anything. Bad habits. Hi, there are a couple people.
Yeah. I was working on the ceiling. So I didn't have to look quite so far. Instead of just one rung on the ladder, I went to the second rung. Right above my head, but I didn't have to look quite so far. How's the tribal action, Ryan?
It's there. I mean, when I first started, there was 10 of us and 2 of us. They're pretty my boss quit right after I got the new job. I just got it. And we were on the so now I've got the vice president of I work at the casino with him. No, he's downstairs. Like I'm assigned to the casino, but I work for Southern Engineering Services, so I don't have. I just
He really, when I met him, he seemed like a guy.
yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, he did.
And he extended his culvert at his house. And they were digging down the dirt and putting rock base.
Oh,
So,
it sunk?
oh man.
They
Yeah,
didn't do one of these like mine.
I'm pretty sure it sunk. Yeah, they got his wife's car stuck in there. And, yeah, they're pretty much hiking from the end of the road to his driveway because they can't get the car back there. It's all tore up.
Where does he live?
He lives over there, you know, taco places. What's that kind of oil? Right past Kindness Animal Hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go down that Diana's taco stand right there. Oh yeah, she's had it for a couple of years. Yeah, you can go there. Mostly during the summer, she'll have. You can go there and eat lunch. Okay, the third mile. Yeah. So if you go down the other one, it's actually just like a mile down it. It'll be on the left hand side. You can get breakfast burritos.
That's the one that takes to your power.
Yes. Yeah, it's way before the power line.
Alright guys, about to get this meeting started. We're at the Tactical Civics meeting in Durango.
Fried red hamburger. And she'll sell tortillas too. Yeah, the tortillas are really good. She'll do some on like Thursdays or something like that. Pre-order them. Oh, but man, there's the best tortillas.
Everybody's spooling up in the back.
Hey, Ryan, what's your mother?
Jackie's still sent.
I'll talk to you later.
It's in the garage. We had a dog house. That turned out pretty good.
What kind of dog did you get?
Put it on casters so I can move it around. And then I put
Oh, it's raining here. Four corner fist in the air. It's pretty rainy. It's not quite cold enough to freeze when it hits the ground, but
She's a lab house.
it has been very wet today. And it's in the forecast. How's the weather down there? Is it raining down there too? Four corner fist in the air?
I messed up. I texted your email. Yeah. I did it about an hour and a half ago. You coming to the meeting?
Yeah, rainy.
Started yet?
Thanks for the update. Four corner fist in the air.
Usually doesn't last long, what, an hour? Usually just an hour.
Rain, snow. Kristen M. Kristen M. Oh, I know Kristen M. Yep, it's been rain and snowing a lot today. It does stick to my windshield. Doesn't really stick to the ground very well, but glad to have you, Kristen. People are spooling up in the back right now. Okay. Okay, four corner fist in the air. Okay, Four Corner Fist in the Air, you're a standard moderator. You're the first ever moderator on this channel. Four Corner Fist in the Air. First ever. Thank you for your work. Okay. Can't sit here anymore.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm just about ready. How about you?
I carry these everywhere. If I don't have them, I'll just croak.
If I'm gonna read something, I tell myself I should read the Bible. So I read that, thankfully, some, but.
Oh, here's some books for sale.
What's that?
I'm just checking out these books for sale. Hey, my name's Adam.
Adam?
Mark?
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Meet you.
We're live on the internet.
Okay, I'll keep them straight. I'll keep them straight.
I'm not recording you
Is there anything
correctly,
you can
but.
do, y'all?
There is. I mean, most people
Okay,
my age
Okay,
don't
yeah.
ever have an issue with it. It's the people that watch it.
Here's some books.
You know.
And jury.
We grow more different. Just our facial structures a little different.
Let's move forward.
Excuse me. Here's a receiver for my audio. If you don't mind me just leaving this here. This is where people are going to start. Genuine Sterling. Welcome.
Okay, we ready to get going here? Welcome to the second seminar we had. The last one was a month ago. And we're tactical civics. The goal is to recapture our government and try and get some kind of control back in people's hands. We're a Christian-based, constitutionally driven group. And we're just getting started. So the whole idea here is to increase our membership to a point of 0.5% across the country, across the county, however you want to look at it. That's 1 out of 200 people. So we got a pretty good start here. We're at about 50 people in this county. So we feel good about it. We're going to open the meeting with a prayer, and I think I'll try to get Ryan to lead it.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gathering, that you've allowed us all to come here safely, and we ask that you would watch over each and every one of us as we depart here, and that you would be with us as we try to bring this country back to the principles that it was founded upon, and to help to restore the moral values that you had led us to. And we ask you would be with Tom and Stan as they deliver this, that you would be with them and watch over them. Thank you for everything that you have done for us and given us, and we ask that you grant everyone safe travels as they return home. All these things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ryan. So we'll start with a video, 11-minute video put together by the mission leaders that kind of sums up where we're at. Let's go ahead with that video.
Everybody knows that election 2020
and our entire republic was hijacked by enemies that tells us to resist evil and it'll flee from you. It's the most brazen crime since 9/11. But everybody knows that election 2020 and our entire republic was hijacked by enemies of the Constitution. And don't think for 1 second that we the people will sit by as communists and organized crime transmogrify America into a cheap imitation of Europe. In fact, we're living in the best time in 230 years of American history. And in this short video, you'll discover why. Yes, I know millions of Americans are heartbroken. They complain that America's finished. They say that the Constitution is dead. But the Bible tells us to resist evil and it'll flee from you. It instructs us to glorify God and to do works fit for repentance. So that's what we're doing. After 44 volunteers dedicated more than 60,000 hours to dig out the real problem plaguing America, we developed a full spectrum solution, a responsible new way of life called Tactical Civics. With over 150 chapters begun so far, our chapter founders are truck drivers and PhDs, homemakers and house painters, grandmothers and young parents, farmers, plumbers, professionals, software programmers, machinists, and homeschooling moms. Our mission is to get just 0.5% of America, just a repentant, responsible remnant, to end the hijacking of America by big cities and organized crime. Our work plan comes right out of the U.S. Constitution, and until Lincoln's War, we the people were doing this law enforcement. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with basic civics. In our constitutional system, civics just means who's boss. And we the people answer that question in the opening words of the Constitution. We the people do ordain. And then in the 10th Amendment, we stipulate that we retain all powers that we didn't give our servants in the Constitution. Our Constitution is the greatest human law in history. Yes, law. It's not just a revered document. It's the highest law in our land, and we the people are the only human authority over it. All of our servants in government are under it, because by that law, we the people created their offices and limiting them to do just 17 services for all of the states. Every other power or function that you can imagine beyond those 17 functions, all of the thousands of agencies, bureaus, offices, and departments that Washington, D.C. has created and is doing every day, they're all illegal. No matter how much we approve or benefit from them, or how long they've been doing these things. Constitutionally, every federal power not authorized by us in the U.S. Constitution is D.C. organized crime. And we the people authorize only ourselves to enforce the Constitution. Yet, believe it or not, we never have, not once. No other organization in America today has detailed, long-term county, state, and federal action projects and a network of chapters from coast to coast to put the authority back where it belongs, in the hands of we the people. Even before the stolen 2020 election by the deep state, big tech, and communist China, we've seen that electoral politics has never hampered D.C. and state palace criminals. First, we the people start planting our county chapters from coast to coast, and we train our members in basic civics and tactical planning, how to live as a responsible overseer of our public servants, how to hold your meetings, how to use our tactical civics training center. Next, we give you everything you need for your county chapter to restore your county grand jury, which is the people's sword and shield against corrupt government and private sector crime in your county. This institution, which is required by the Constitution, began back in England in the year 997 AD. The late Justice Scalia explained in a case called U.S. versus Williams in 1992 that grand jury is not part of the court, but independent of the judge and the prosecutor. It can subpoena witnesses, issue warrants for evidence, and investigate anything suspicious in your county. Grand jury is the only way to stop corrupt public servants, including corrupt sheriffs, district attorneys, judges, legislators, and election boards and workers. The first local action project of Tactical Civics chapters is we help you to get a county grand jury ordinance passed and a grand jury webpage added to and maintained on your county government's website, just like over 20 counties in California already do today. Just urging citizens to volunteer for grand jury service and offering links to our Grand Jury Awake program to train and brief grand jury members. When county government has corrupt actors in law enforcement, they tie the hands of the grand jury. This is where the Founding Fathers' other law enforcement institution comes into play. The militia began in England in 1014 AD. Like the grand jury, it's the people's law enforcement tool ordained by God to, quote, bear the sword, unquote, as explained in Romans 13. In the Declaration of Independence, we told the world that when any level of government fails to do its job, that duty reverts right back to the people. Since Lincoln's troops marched on our streets, Washington, D.C. became our master, and all 50 states have failed to obey the people's stipulated duties in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, for, quote, militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, unquote. Our parents and grandparents didn't know this basic civics. Since Lincoln's hijacking, Washington, D.C. has been increasingly captured by globalist corporations, billionaires, and an army of several million bureaucrats. The Clinton, Bush, and Obama families' overthrow of our Constitution includes demonizing the militia because communists and fascists need the American people to be disarmed and ignorant. Then organized crime can flourish. The first local action of new militia units in your county will be to help that militia group get a county militia ordinance passed. And the Tactical Civics chapter will help launch and maintain a county militia webpage added to your county government's website to match the one for county grand jury. With state palaces pulling off the same lawless, fascist subterfuge as Washington, D.C., we the people now turn to our own county governments as our defensive phalanx to restore our oversight and enforcement that we demand in the U.S. Constitution. It's the law. Grand jury and true lawful militia are not optional. Tactical Civics is the action mission and national brand of America Again Trust, a private Christian member organization with an online training center that teaches Americans how to stop organized crime by sociopaths, communists, perverts, atheists, vandals, and politicians who have been openly, arrogantly violating our highest law for generations. Their side is the deep state, communist China, big tech, big war, big banking, big oil, big pharma, and corporations who keep legislators as pets, plus mainstream media, Hollywood, illegal aliens, jihadis, and others. Our side is 50 million families and more on farms, ranches, and in homesteads and shops across the productive, normal heartland. It's America's 31,000 small towns, faithful to the Lord who gave our forefathers the strength, perseverance, and wisdom that we need again today. Finally, a full spectrum, long-term, peaceful, rational action plan. No more complaining to one another and doing nothing. America can be restored. There's much more to this new way of life. We plan to finish ratifying the original first right in the Bill of Rights, to give America's small towns and states our first representation in over a century. And then the Bring Congress Home Act and our indictment engine mobile app to stop unconstitutional laws in their tracks. And there's much more. But we have to begin by restoring the American people's grand jury and militia, that control that we used to have over corruption. Because by the grace of God, some days the world just changes. If you're ready to take responsibility, you know repentance is always an option, and repentance is an action word.
Well, thanks for sitting through that. That's a mouthful there. It may be hard to comprehend all of it at first, but what we're trying to do is get 1 out of 200 people, 0.5%, to join our mission and approach our county government, one county at a time, and get back control that the Constitution says we should have, but we've never enforced it. And so now we're learning how, and we're willing to teach you, and hopefully you turn around and teach other people until we get the numbers we need. Then we'll approach the counties, one county at a time. Is there any questions about the movie? Got one?
Not about the movie. Do we have an attorney on board yet?
What?
An attorney. Do we have an attorney on board, a member?
No.
That's part of the $50 that you pay. Is when I ask Robert Drake, that's what that money is going to.
Okay.
To help put that in line, to pay for websites, and hopefully to do a lot more in the future to help, because everything you see and hear, when the banners, the books, me and what's your name again?
Tom.
It's
getting a little older.
We kick that out, our own money. So it's all a volunteer thing. So we're doing that by ourselves. So, sorry, Tom.
Yeah, so we'll ask you guys to volunteer too. This is a all volunteer organization. And if you join, we'll ask you to donate some of your time to help us build up our membership. Any other questions?
Who's the narrator of that video?
David Zuniga. He's one of the founders of the mission.
Mm-hmm. Where does he live?
In Bourne, Texas. Bernie, Texas, I guess you pronounce it. B-O-E-R-N-E.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a building, so to speak. We all work out of our homes or venues like this. So we try to keep everything inexpensive. But we still pay all our taxes, which we're not sure where that goes.
Yeah.
So I got a little presentation here I'll do, and it kind of goes over what we've already done. So the problem we have is, for generations since Lincoln, we the people have failed to keep our republic by enforcing our Constitution. This has resulted in a rampant criminal violation of the Constitution by our elected servants seen daily in Washington. I have a couple examples here. One example may be the borders, the open borders. Why don't we enforce immigration anymore? Nobody seems to know. The second example would be when Trump was in office, we were an oil exporter as a country, and we're now buying oil from other countries. Why are we doing that? Why did they close the Keystone pipeline about a day after Biden took office? We don't ever get the answers to that, those kind of questions. The third example would be who in their right mind would tell a fourth grader that they can choose what sex they want to be and they don't have to tell their parents? That's where we're at. Where did this come from? So those are the kind of things we want to put a stop to. The goal of Tactical Civics is to restore a repenting remnant of we the people, to implement Constitution enforcement utilizing the two law enforcement tools stipulated by the Constitution. Easier for him to push a button than me to change the pages here. So the solution is we cause a grand jury and a well-regulated militia to be operational in every county. That's not going to happen overnight. It could take a couple years. We're going to redistrict the Republic by finishing the ratification of the long-shelved Article the 1st to make it the 28th Amendment to the Constitution, resulting in congressional districts no larger than 50,000 people. Currently, our congressmen represent an average of 750,000 people each. There's no way they can even begin to know what we would like, nor to care. Accordingly, we will permanently bring our senators and congressmen home to work. Congressmen in their new, much smaller home districts under the watchful eye of we the people. We're going to pass and implement 18 additional reform laws designed to take back everything our criminal servants have stolen over the last 160 years. The plan is we are currently in phase 1, and our priority this year is membership growth to reach a critical mass so we can move to phase 2. Phase 1 is going to be member registration in all 3,141 counties in America. So we grow your county chapter to at least 1/2 of 1% of the county's population. This county, the population is about 57,000 people, and 1/2 of 1% would be 280 people. Well, it's not that many. Then we go to phase 2, once we reach our critical mass, and the constitutional militia will be created in every county in the Republic. The county government passes grand jury and militia ordinances, launches web pages recognizing the people's constitutional legal authority. Tactical Civics members educate the county and authority of the duty of the grand jury. So it'll be our job to, if they don't already know, the civics, the way the law is supposed to work, is teach all the county members how it's supposed to work. Phase 3 is finish ratifying the original first right in our Bill of Rights. Get 27 more states' legislators to vote yes to make it the 28th Amendment of the Constitution. Our first right was already passed by Congress back in 1789 and ratified by 11 states. So therefore, no action is needed for the corrupt Congress to pass these other 27 states. The U.S. House districts will be small as intended by the founding fathers. From 435 now to 6,400, a representative for every 50,000 people. And that will actually be cheaper than providing $11 million a year to 435 congressmen, which we're doing now, by paying for all their travel time and per diem and whatever other expenses they come up with. We're spending an average of $11 million a year right now on that. For the first time in 110 years, our 31,000 small towns have a vote in the U.S. House and in the Electoral College, breaking big city control forever. Phase 4, our new Representative Congress passes the Bring Home Congress Act. The new Representative People's House politically forces Senate to join enacting the Bring Congress Home Act. 6,400 congressmen can't fit in the Capitol that we have now. These congressmen will work from their offices in the districts they represent. They won't need to travel to DC anymore. They won't need to spend most of their time away from their home and families. And they won't be corrupted by the DC corruption engine that we currently have in place. The militia and grand jury assure that state and federal legislators obey the law, especially the U.S. Constitution. The indictment engine scans, that's the software package that they're creating, scans all new legislation filed. If the new legislation violates Constitution or laws, the software automatically generates a felony presentment to grand jury of sponsors and co-sponsors of the proposed bill for felony conspiracy and other applicable state penal crimes. What that sentence is trying to say is that they're creating a software package that will scan each new piece of legislation to verify that it's legal. And if it's not legal, they will tell the sponsors and co-sponsors of that legislation that they're breaking the law, and if they don't withdraw that legislation, they'll go to court for it. Long-term goals are we the people, via our now locally based representatives, push through 18 other reform laws, taking back all that DC has stolen. And what now? Well, what now is we take action, one-on-one mission orientation, do the recommended reading outlined in the orientation, and we'll give you that list. Share tactical civics far and wide as outlined in the orientation. And as your confidence and content assimilation increases, hold introduction seminars like this one here to recruit more new members. And lastly, pray about and discuss mission leadership rules. So I'd like to open it to questions now before Stan does his presentation. Let's go with this gentleman here.
How fast do you intend to roll this out? Because the quicker you roll it out, the more traction you gain, the quicker the dark side's going to react to it.
Yeah.
So what's your plan on
We-
the rollout? Do you want to spread out? Do you want to keep it under wraps kind of for a while? What's your...
No, we plan on spreading the news. We don't have anything to hide. We're doing everything legally per the Constitution, and we're using the gospel, the Bible, as a guide. So we're not worried what the dark side thinks.
I also heard on one of the podcasts, Zoom calls, that they plan to do, when they get to a certain number, they're gonna do it all at once. So that the other side doesn't have, so if we, let's say we reach our mass here and we want to go ahead and put in the militia and also put in the grand jury, well, 3 counties over, they're going, well, we're not gonna allow this, we're gonna start putting a stop to this before it gets there. And so that's what I'm hearing, that we plan to do this all at once.
Yeah.
So when we get, even if we get our mass here, we might have to work on San Juan County and Archuleta or whatever it is, make sure we bring them to what they need. And then when they're ready to make the application.
So to clarify, is that just gonna be for Colorado or is that gonna be?
Nationwide. Yes, nationwide.
Yeah, we don't plan on implementing the grand jury in just one county at a time. We will try to implement it in multiple counties at a time, just to keep the momentum in our favor. We don't plan on going to the biggest counties like Denver first. We plan on going to the smaller counties first and surround these big counties with agreeable smaller counties to try and assimilate into the larger populations. And what was your question back here?
Just to understand what she's asking. Are you saying that it's kind of like a Tet offensive, we're building everything up and then we get to go ahead and it's attack?
Yeah.
Oh,
We
okay.
all.
Okay, I missed that, okay, good.
Right, because
Okay.
in the Great Reset, you will see that there's ordinances already printed. So all we have to do is fill in the blanks and take them to our county commissioners and enforce it, but we'll have to have the mass there to make sure that we get that done, because.
But that kind of reminds me of what the UN and the World Economic Forum is doing, that for decades they've been planning this. And now it's execution time and they're just raining down on us. And,
Right.
got us all kind of unstuck.
Right.
Yeah, my question was on the Zoom call. I noticed they had certain dates, like Monday was the East Coast, Tuesday was the Central Coast, Wednesday is the Mountain Range. Do you listen to, is it beneficial to listen to the other ones, or are we supposed to look at this as like, our top one is the Mountain Time Zone, that's the one we're focused on?
No, I've listened to both. I've listened to all of them, actually. On a Monday, if I'm free.
Are they different? Is it a different agenda?
A lot of times they're doing chapter studies on the Great Reset. And so they might be in chapter 7 on the East Coast and chapter 19 on the West Coast.
The agenda is printed, if you look close enough, on the website of what that Zoom call is going to.
Yeah, so our Zoom call designated for us is on Wednesdays.
But
the Mountain Time is Wednesdays, but if it's more convenient for you to attend yeah, it doesn't matter which one you attend.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter that you don't go over the Great Reset chapters in order. It's best to go in order if you can, but if you can't, they are self-standing.
Okay.
So you can go to the time zone that meets your schedule, and they'll be studying a certain chapter that maybe you haven't read yet, or you should try and read it before.
Who does our Zoom and Mountain, and where do they live?
I'm sorry?
Who does our Mountain Zoom, and where do they live?
Montana, Bart Crabtree.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes Mike LeMace, I can't pronounce his last name. I'm running into a lot of different last names.
Can you talk about topics outside of the book? Like you were saying, it's chapter by chapter, but
what they want you to do is read that chapter if you're going to study on chapter 7, and kind of know if you got questions. And they kind of run. It's just like a round table. They just start.
Okay.
What do you think about this and this kind of deal? And they were on I can't remember what it was, they were on the law enforcement chapter or whatever, and David Zuniga was actually on that one. I've never been on any of them that he was on that, and so he helped explain it so much better than because he was one of the writers of the book. So, yeah. They're all involved heavily. So, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm gonna zoom in on Wednesday, and I'm gonna see a certain chapter. Do you have the opportunity to go back, and are those videos available for past chapters?
Yes,
Watch?
yes, they're all recorded. I can't direct you to where the recordings are at, because I don't know yet. And but they are recorded, so you can go back and watch them, but it's a little bit harder that way. I think you lose some of the value of the Zoom call.
Do they have a bill ready to go to put civics back into the schools?
No, that's something that we'll have to do by county. But I'm not sure it's ever been in schools, has it?
Oh, yeah, we used to teach it.
Yeah, that would be
That's
nice.
been replaced by trans
Yeah.
story time.
You remember about 5 years ago, the good old Democrat Richard Dreyfuss, remember the actor? He was really pushing to get civics back in our schools.
We've got to.
Yep.
Well, the last meeting we had, the new state, down in the State Board of Education was here.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she was here too.
I was. I was so
Well, if there's no more questions, here's one. Go ahead.
Once the word term militia comes into the equation,
I'm sorry?
militia, once the term militia comes into the equation, I think that ups the game.
Yes.
They're gonna be in the crosshairs.
Yes.
So by that time, hopefully, there's a lawyer on board to kind of guide the group through this thing.
Right.
Because if you start using militia, I'll guarantee at some point, justice is gonna be looking at you.
Yeah, we already run into that problem because the militias that we've seen over the past, and then what the mainstream media does is use it, well, we talked about it earlier back there, whether you're talking about Ruby Ridge, whether you're talking about Waco, and they have put a bad spin on it. But the Second Amendment is very clear when it says there shall be a well-regulated militia. I mean, it's as clear as day. And then it talks about your rights to have an arm, have firearms, but it talks about the militias, and then you go over in certain sections and it tells you what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to be set up, and it's all there, and they choose to ignore it. And that's exactly what happened between George Washington and Lincoln. There was grand juries and militia. They have a civil war, he needs a standing army, and there's also a provision in there. There shall be an army, and it shall be financed, but for no more than 2 years. And it has to be, by the Congress, has to refinance it. So there shouldn't be a standing army. It goes below that and says, yes, there will be a Navy, because you have to have somebody to protect your outer rim of your nation, of your county, or your country, and it talks about it, and it talks about whether the army bases or whatever they are, they should be no bigger than this, and that they showed a picture of it up earlier about the Constitution. They have it divided up so it's very easy to look. Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 5, and it'll tell you exactly what it means.
That's right, Stan. However, the Durango Herald will not write it up that way.
Very good.
And that's where all the pressure's gonna come in. If you see militia, just walk out on the street and say AR-15. I mean, people freak out, so to speak. And I already don't have my First Amendment speech. That's misinformation.
Yeah, we're losing that too.
That's misinformation. So there's gonna be some pushback. I don't know how that plays out, but I thought that was a good point you brought up. Just the word militia.
Yeah.
Maybe we could rename it to Snoopy and Snoopy. Now let's get the Snoopy together and,
Take care of business.
I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, one of my younger summers at work, and he was just like, well, I was taught that the Constitution was just a temporary document. And I was, and you know, he's in his late 20s, and I'm going, oh, we need to have a serious conversation when we're not at work.
Yes.
They've been brainwashed.
Really scary.
Yes, very well, very much.
Scary.
Yeah, the militia, I don't like to talk about it because it has such a bad connotation. But in reality, the well-regulated militia is not a bunch of guys with camo on, face paint, and AR-15s running around in the woods shooting things up. That's not what the militia is all
But
about.
that's where the spin's gonna go.
Yes,
Yes.
and we know that. Yes.
And the media loves that, because every time somebody stands up and says, you know, I have a right to carry a gun and I'm gonna use it and you won't pry it out of my hands until I'm dead, they love that, because then they can focus on that and, you know, convince everyone that guns are bad. So I don't currently talk about the militia much, but eventually we'll have
I
it.
think we'll have to get those talking points down as time goes forward, how to address it. Like,
Yeah.
I always use the term.
We're approach, and we need to be on the same page and really understand how to say it.
Yeah, there's-
I thought what you said was great, but we need to all be on the same page when we're confronted.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of what the Zoom calls are about, you know, to kind of form so we all have the same path, the same thinking. The first three books they ask you to read are The Great Reset, The Grand Jury, and then the third one is about the militia. I haven't got to that one yet myself, so I can't talk about it too much, but I would suggest reading that to learn some more about it. And it's free if you want to read the electronic copy. If you want to buy one, I think it says $7, so they're not expensive. But you had a question.
Yeah, you had a slide that was talking about the first right, R-I-G-H-T, and I guess I'm too ignorant to know what that meant. You know what you were talking about. When I think about the first right, I'm thinking about the First Amendment, but I think you're probably talking about something else, aren't you?
Right.
I'll have to go back to that page.
From what I learned, when they put the Constitution out to the 13 states, they put it out and let all 13 states read it. And then they had them put their words and their amendments in of what they thought should be added to the Constitution. So, and that's the Bill of Rights, and that's one of the things they wanted to put in there.
And so it was supposed to be ratified. It was by the, in 1778, that's when the Constitutional Convention was held. And they had all the stuff, they fixed everything they wanted to. They sent them to the states like Todd's talking about, and they were to ratify these points. And this was one of the first points. And what happened was that every one of them, two didn't actually do it. One, Connecticut was supposed to. They actually signed it, but never sent it back because they were upset about a couple of words that were there in that statement. So we were supposed to have one for every 50, but because Connecticut didn't send it back to the Constitutional Convention, it never got ratified. And so that is that first right.
That's part of the civics that we need to learn. I mean, have you ever read the Constitution?
I have.
Very few people have. And
Well, I've read the Pocket Constitution. Does that count?
I'm sorry,
It counts. It counts.
Does it have all of it in there?
Okay.
I think so.
I have one. Never read it.
Well, are there any other questions?
I have one.
Okay.
My name is Wade Bright. I'm in Archuleta County. Is Ricky White on the line by chance too?
No,
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay, Ricky White is the head of our chapter over here, and we've been doing this for, oh my God, 10 years. And there's 3 people in jail today from the Front Range Steve Nolle is being one of them, that when they tried to subpoena a judge, they came and arrested them and hauled them off to jail without charges, and they've been in jail for about 10 years now for enforcing this. But getting back to the numbers, have you been in touch with Dexter Gill over in Montezuma County with the Montezuma Sentinels?
No.
Okay, they're a very strong group. They have weekly rides through town with flags. They're a very strong group. They'd be a big asset to you. His name is Dexter Gill. And just type in Montezuma Sentinels, you'll get an email to him. Also, too, a very important thing is the original 13th Amendment that was changed by Lincoln for a proclamation, or what do you call it, whatever that damn thing is. But the 13th Amendment is actually still in the Constitution under Article 1, Section 9 or Paragraph 9, where no royalty will be able to hold a public office. And we have a lot of bar attorneys that are esquires that are considered royalty that run our counties. All of our county attorneys and a lot of the people involved in government are bar members. They are illegal and can be legally removed. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
13th Amendment. If anybody has a Constitution right there, look under Article 1, paragraph 9 or Section 9. I think it's Section 9. And look it up, and it's exactly what the 13th Amendment originally says. And that can be enforced today.
Okay.
Anybody have it? Anybody looked it up there? Does anybody have a pocket Constitution?
I don't know that anyone here has a copy of the
No, we have a pocket, no. Need to get something passed around. I mean, Ryan, is there anybody else have on chat?
That's true. I didn't really chat.
So the 13th abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, except for.
That's what it is now. Originally, under the Articles of Confederation, it was to not have royalty be involved in public servitude. And that means esquires. And that's who run our government through the Bar Association today. Yep. If you look at Article 1, Section 9 of our Constitution, it reiterates that. Yeah, like I said, Lincoln changed it to the proclamation. Because they wanted to get rid of it. And Lincoln was the first bar attorney that became a president.
That tells you something.
So that's something that's very important too, that can be utilized right off the bat. Because anybody that's in the bar is not gonna help them. They're all part of that country club. What did George Collins say? That there's a big country club out there and we ain't in it? And that's exactly right. Also too, if you can get a hold of Ricky White, he can give you a whole history of what you people are trying to do there, that goes back 10 years, when a lot of us started this thing too. And Ricky White, let's see if I can get his, his email real quick. If you have a pencil and paper. I emailed this to Adam Howe yesterday, Ricky White's phone number and stuff. And there's also a website where Michigan and Alaska are doing this, and they've been successful in doing this. And maybe it's Ricky_White48@yahoo.com. He can send you a link to a video that was done here recently regarding Alaska and Michigan doing the same thing, and they've been successful at doing it. And if you can email him and get a copy of that video, or if Adam is there, he has a copy of that, and that can explain to you further what our Bureau of Assemblies can do and how to go about doing it.
Okay, well, we thank you for your input. We're gonna go on to the next question, or if there are any more.
That was a great civics lesson right there.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
That's really interesting.
Thank you,
Is
caller.
there any more questions, Ryan? Okay, that's it then, for the question and answer session. You ready, Stan?
I'm ready. Do you remember my name?
Yeah. Well, you got that name tag on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Tom. just to let you know, Tom is our state coordinator. We're lucky enough to have him here living in our county. He's the one that came up to me and, I know I joined in November. You got it he looked at it in October and I joined in November. He come over and talked to me about it. And, so we're lucky to have him here. I'm the La Plata County coordinator and I'm always looking for assistance. So hopefully we can find some of that. I got a little short video here and, I want you to watch. This was Ronald Reagan, 1964. He was working, trying to get Barry Goldwater.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. Man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant-heap of totalitarianism. And regardless of their sincerity, their humanitarian motives, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. In this vote harvesting time, they use terms like the Great Society, or as we were told a few days ago by the President, we must accept a greater government activity in the affairs of the people. But they've been a little more explicit in the past, and among themselves, and all of the things I now will quote have appeared in print. These are not Republican accusations. For example, they have voices that say the Cold War will end through our acceptance of a not undemocratic socialism. Another voice says the profit motive has become outmoded. It must be replaced by the incentives of the welfare state. Or our traditional system of individual freedom is incapable of solving the complex problems of the 20th century. Senator Fulbright has said at Stanford University that the Constitution is outmoded. He referred to the President as our moral teacher and our leader. And he says he is hobbled in his task by the restrictions of power imposed on him by this antiquated document. He must be freed so that he can do for us what he knows is best. And Senator Clark of Pennsylvania, another articulate spokesman, defines liberalism as meeting the material needs of the masses through the full power of centralized government. Well, I, for one, resent it when a representative of the people refers to you and me, the free men and women of this country, as the masses. This is a term we haven't applied to ourselves in America. But beyond that, the full power of centralized government, this was the very thing the Founding Fathers sought to minimize. They knew that governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people. And they know when a government sets out to do that, it must use force and coercion to achieve its purpose. They also knew, those Founding Fathers, that outside of its legitimate functions, government does nothing as well or as economically as the private sector of the economy. Now we have...
Boy, he speaks almost as good as Biden.
Yeah, can you imagine this being 1964 and talking about central government control? And what really caught my eye was the point where he says that the president thinks that he is your moral leader.
Yeah.
oh my word, the guy that we have in there today is just, maybe Hunter Biden ought to be our moral leader. I mean, it's just ridiculous of the things that we see, the things that he talked about here, what we say was like 59 years ago, this was put together. Unbelievable, the things and the insight. And now they don't even care if you know exactly. They have hit us and bombarded us with those things. Well,
Stan, I wanted to just interject something there too. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
It made me think of the fact that we are putting judges in that know nothing about the Constitution.
Absolutely, yeah. We have to get back to that, just like Tom said earlier. We have to be able to self-teach ourselves about the Constitution, because if we don't learn it and teach it to our children, here's one of the books you could get. Anybody here got homeschoolers? This is the Tactical Civics High School Edition. So if you got homeschoolers, you can use this book in their learning ability. That's how far these people have gone. Man, I skipped all the way. No. For a lot of us, we all have an American dream, and it's probably different for every one of us. But what we do know, that our government is stripping our rights methodically and systematically and taking away those rights every day. There is so many gun laws. I mean, I just heard on the news well, somebody told me, I think they were, you know why they put guns and hired all those IRS agents? Because they're going to tax your AR-15 $1,000 a piece, and so when they come to collect the tax and you don't have it, they're going to take your gun away from you. And that's why they're armed. Now, we can't allow this to happen. I don't care who you are. We can't allow this to happen in this country. Reagan said it probably the best. That guy said, there's no other place to go. That Cuban immigrant had a place to come to get freedoms, but we have no other place to go. You're not going to go to France, you're not going to go to Canada, you're not going to go to, they don't have any of the freedoms we have. And they may be democratic, but they do not have the freedoms we have. And so we have to make a change. And a lot of us have seen how big government has interfered, whether it be government overreach, government outrageous spending. I gave this, if you see the dates, it was exactly a month ago. I put 3/20/17/23. This is, I misprinted it, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be 31/4/55. Can you see that? That's wrong. So the time I did this the other day, the 19th, today's the 20th, I did it Sunday at 4:21. This is how much money has gained in a month's time to our budget, to our national debt. $170 billion in 1 month. We have to do something, and we have to do it at county level, and it has to start here, and we got to help the counties next to us. And any of y'all play Risk? You know what Risk is? This little board game? Yep. What do you do? You gain lots of people here, and you go to the next country. You put your boards there, you roll the dice, you gain the next country. That's what we got to do here. We got to do next county, here and there. Washington, D.C. is no more than just organized crime anymore. And I know if you're like me, you kind of feel powerless to stop any of this. What are we going to do? One of the things that we do is we stand around the water cooler and we gripe about high gas prices. We talk to our neighbors across the fence and we talk to them about high inflation and we complain about it. And then we meet someone in the supermarket, and I've done this several times, and then I whine about what they're teaching in the public schools? Well, the complaining does nothing, does it? We can complain all day long about what's going on. We can rant and rave on our social medias about what the government is doing to us. Einstein defined insanity as repeatedly doing the same thing and always expecting a different result. Well, complaining is not going to fix the problem, is it? It's going to take action. And that's what we're kind of doing here tonight. It's a smaller group than we had last time, but you know what? The whole idea is we have to have, you know 10 people, I know 10 people, and every time we do this, we gain people, don't we? And so we got to get to that massive people that we need just for this county. And we're going to work on this county. Tom, he's got to work on 10 counties. Thank you, Tom. All right. Let's talk about men and women of action, because that's what we're going to have. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean you don't belong here, because you do. Amen. There's things that you can do, I don't care what it is. And we got to have everybody. It just can't be just men. Now, I want you to think about the Revolution War, a time in which these colonial patriots, they were sick and tired of being ruled by a tyrant that lived across the pond in England. They were tired of paying taxes and having no representation. And so these brave patriots took up arms, and they were willing to fight to the death to secure that freedom. And they were people just like you and me. They were farmers and ranchers and business owners and craftsmen and blacksmiths, bankers and merchants, truck drivers. That's what we have today. Some of the same things. Now, I want you to consider in your mind what it took for these people, these patriots, to conjure up that we're going to take on and fight the most powerful army and navy in the world at that time. They were well organized. Well organized. But all we had was a bunch of farmers. But they were willing to do this, to take on the most powerful armies and navies in the world. These people were the epitome of action. And after 7 years of war, they won that freedom. And it took nearly to the middle of it before they ever won a battle. And it wasn't until Washington crossed the Delaware on the little boat, you see him standing up, got on the other side, and I believe it was Christmas or Christmas Eve, and they had their first victory. And from there, it started to turn around. They won the war. It ended in 1783. I'm sorry. It ended, and then in 1778, they had the Constitution Convention that lasted about 4 years. I guess I got to keep up with what I'm doing here. After that Constitution Convention, one of the people that came out of that Constitution was Benjamin Franklin. And a lady caught him as he came out and said, "Dr. Franklin, what kind of government have you got us, a republic or a monarch?" He replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." And that's the problem that we're going to see. Can we keep it? Because they're taking every day trying to strip that away from us. And our American patriots then, they had seen the very first abuse of a government. Every time they tried to set up a way of establishing representation, King George done away with it. Every time. And what I have to get you to understand, and the way you're going to have to start thinking, is that it's we the people. It's not them, the government is in charge. It's we the people. Because when you start to read the Constitution, that's the very first thing you see. We the people. You're in charge. You are supposed to control everything. And these three short words, Biden would say, well, these two words. No, these three short words says that you're the boss. That you're in charge. It says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. You are in charge. They work for us. And that's the way we have to start thinking this way. That we have to believe that we are in charge because these arrogant servants of ours demand that we follow their rule. And I know there's people in here that have businesses. Would you allow any of your employees to talk to you that way? No, you'd fire them, wouldn't you? We just can't continue to demand that we have rights. We must realize that we have a duty and a responsibility to restrain and limit our arrogant violators of our Constitution who usurp our authority. And for decades, they have programmed us to think that they are in charge. They've just brainwashed us, haven't they? Yep. They have brainwashed us. So what's it going to take on our part? And Tom has talked about this in the plans in which we've got to do. In the militia, first we have to get the masses before we ever get the grand jury and get the militia started. And so we have to start thinking the way and operating that way and participating that we are in charge. We must take charge. And as you heard the earlier video, this is a Christian organization. You don't have to be a Christian. Absolutely not. I heard David Siniga the other day says, I don't care if you're an atheist. That's fine. But it's based on Christianity because Christianity was what our forefathers based the Constitution on. And so they used it as a rule of thumb to do the things that they did. And so they understood the part about repenting and changing. And we understand what it means to repent. It means to change. We can no longer let them be in charge, but now we have to repent of our ways and say, I'm in charge. I'm going to be responsible for telling these people what they should and should not do. We got to start thinking about business as usual. We got to think, we the people, we're in charge. And so our mission at Tactical Civics is not only to teach, to educate, but to organize people and finally arrest those corrupt servants and stop that runaway government growth. One of the guys at the last meeting talked about, aren't you increasing government by adding 64 to 65? The whole idea is it takes no less money if you cut their paycheck in half and only have two. Each congressman will be at home and have 2 staffers instead of 6. And I don't know what the senators have. I think they're only going to be allowed 6. I think they have 8 to 10. So we cut them in half. But you have the representation in which you were promised that we should have. Tactical Civics is geared to train productive, and responsible citizens to finally fight back. And it's about doing it peacefully. Because I know I've talked to a lot of you about getting together and organizing our own so-called militia, just in case the crap hits the fan. Yeah? Because what happens when they start to shut things down, and we already seen 3 banks fold in the last month or 2, what else is going to happen after that when they start to lock down and freeze your bank accounts? So we have to be able to fight and put down those haughty, conceited, self-righteous, egotistic servants that we are in charge of. And so here at Tactical Civics, and some of y'all have already seen that there's an array of things that you'll get on your phone. This is under the Mighty Network. You get on your phone, and all the things that you can do over here, and here's some of the deals you could click and see certain things on Zoom or whatever. So there's a whole way of training ourselves to get the job done. You're not going to be left alone. There's always questions that you ask on those Zoom calls if you want to do those things. And so there's a large array of tools. There's that training center. They ask you to start at the top and just work yourself down through it so that you understand what's going on. And there's a Zoom call nearly every night that you can play. Saturday, I think they have something on Sunday, a prayer deal. They're big into that, doing that too. There's a large array. Every book that we have is on a PDF in this section. Once you join, you can read every book on PDF. Now, I like a hard copy to mark up and do that stuff. You can buy those there. We're going to have them for sale back here in the back. Like I said, the Great Reset is one of the greatest ones first ones they want you to read there. And so it will help us to understand. There's some of them on audio. Just the other day, they added the Great Reset. You can listen to it on audio. These are some of those books you see there that you can get. This is one that I was talking about here. It's a spiral binder, and it's the Constitution, and they have it broke down so it's easy to read. I've already marked mine up. When it talks about in the militia, I've already got it marked up. Every word that it talks about militia, every word that it talks about the grand jury. And there's tons of people on those Zoom calls that are willing to help. And so the choice becomes yours. You know who this guy is? You ever watch this movie? All of us have seen this movie from the beginning, yes. Yes. You choose the red pill or you choose the blue pill. Yep. The quote is, you take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. And that we see through the brainwashing of what's going on, mainstream media, social media, cutting you out. I mean, when they talk to you, cut you out of something because they say it's misinformation. It's not misinformation. They just don't want you to see it and believe it. And so the choice becomes you. You can wake up in your bed, believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And it goes deep. And it goes to deep state stuff, where major corporations assassinate people, put wars into happening so that they can generate making their war machines to do whatever they want. And then you pay, our tax money pays for that kind of stuff. So, the whole idea is the red pill of this mission is dedicated to what the truth is. That's our choice. Which one are you going to choose? One of the things from time to time, I get an opportunity to preach in this pulpit to the congregation. And one of the things that I tell them, and it's the story in Luke, Luke 13. It's about the vineyard. And it's about consuming or producing. And so the choice has to be ours about whether we want to be consumers or we want to be producers. And so the main goal here tonight, and what I'm trying to convince you to do, is be a part of this. Because if you're a part of this, then the faster it goes, the quicker we can get this thing turned around, because they've already got our hooks, their hooks into our kids, to our college kids. Oh my word, that's the worst. They train them up and make them believe all this stuff. They get to college and then just hammer it down. I mean, it started way back. We're five generations behind. But the one thing that we have on our side is the Constitution, one of the smallest Constitution ever written in this world. And yet the most unique thing that's ever happened to mankind, as Ronald Reagan pointed out. The choice is ours. And so I'll leave you with this, and this is a verse in the Bible. Therefore, to one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is a sin. And so what I'm asking you is what the right thing is to do. To be part of something that we can stand together, because it's going to take all of us. Nobody likes to stand alone. We want to be part of something that can actually make a difference right here in Durango, Colorado, in southwest Colorado, and hopefully all of Colorado, and soon the United States that we love. Because there's no other place like this. And if we let this slip away, we will never get it back together. It will take. We're not asking for a revolution. We already had that. They established the Constitution that we need today, and that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting to gain it back and make it work like it's supposed to. So, we got books for sale back here in the back. We'll have somebody back there. I have Kayla and Cam back here. If you would like to join tonight, you can go back there and they're going to help you with that. And there's other ways you can buy a book, go home, read it. You can get on your phone or your laptop at home. Just go to tacticalcivics.com. When you see the little red tab, you can just push it and it starts the process of joining. And so the whole idea is that when we do this next month, hopefully, and you believe in what we're talking about here and the things that you read, I was so refreshed when I talked to Robert this afternoon, how he loved the things that he was reading. It was so refreshing, he said. And it's a great read, it's a good book, and I think you'll like it a lot. So that's all I have. Any questions?
And just to tell some of the people who are new here tonight, this morning or maybe yesterday, we have 49 states that are participating.
Okay.
We have 16% of the counties that we need, and our momentum is growing daily.
Yeah.
There's multiple times, 4, 5, 6 times where you get as a message to every member. We have great increase this state, great increase this state. It's growing exponentially, and it's awesome.
Well, we even had the deal, some of the regional guys like Robert Drake and some of those guys, they weren't able to keep up, so they're asking people like Tom, who is a state representative coordinator, to help in the interview. Because this is what's going to happen, guys, is that you join, it's going to ask you for a time in which you would like one of these guys to be in contact with you. And so they're going to kind of interview you, see where you're at. Not everybody fits. I hope all of y'all fit. You know, not everybody fits. They have their ideas of what they want to do and the things that they think, you know, it should happen. But these guys have done hours and hours of research and development on how this mission should go. They worked out the kinks. They went through the bugs. They honed it down to the way that they think that this is the way it should go. And so what you're going to get is somebody has a little different philosophy in the things that they believe, and it may not just quite work. But what I found out is that maybe not everything fits, and me and Cody talked about that the other day. But the whole idea is that you need to look and see if you can follow some of those. Yes, sir.
You know if there's a signal channel or telegram?
We actually have Signal. Yep,
Signal.
we already have Signal. It's a coded, like message. If you're gonna send texts,
Yep.
we have it. And they had some of their Army buddies that are in the intelligence try to break in, and they couldn't do it.
Nice.
So
It works.
it works. It works. It really was. So you could send coded. And they're not. They're just when you join. It's part of a deal that you have to enter into. Not every time, but it'll last you up every time you go into it. So they know that you're not breaking into it. Yes, absolutely. Anybody else? No. Mom.
I was
Got
just
it.
gonna say $5 a month if you wanna join,
Right?
quit
If you don't like it.
I guess. Now, don't be scared of the word militia. Ryan mentioned at work,
Yes.
they are scared of that
They're
word.
scared of it, yes. And they're gonna make sure, the main media is gonna make sure of it. But the word I always use is constitutional militia. And what you ought to do is memorize the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia is necessary for a free state. And then it talks about that you have the right to bear arms. And the word I like the best, and they shall not infringe on that. And that means everything, because when they talk about militia, they're talking about you having the equipment as our Army has today. So it's not having an AR-15, it's having an automatic weapon if you so choose. You know, so that makes a difference. You'll be able to have the equipment as a militia person as our Army has today. Because they infringe on that. They take the how many bullets you can buy here in a magazine in Colorado. You can have 10. I go down to Sportsman down in Farmington and buy mine. So that makes sense. Anybody else got a question? Bruce?
Do you have a chapter over in the San Luis Valley?
Do you know San Luis Valley? Do we have a chapter over there?
Alamosa?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
That's not a county, is it? San Luis Valley?
Alamosa County.
It's Alamosa County?
Alamosa? I don't know if we have anybody there yet or not.
That'd be a hotbed.
But that's what we need. Do you know people there?
Oh, yeah.
See, you get in, and that's why, see, we knew Cody and Ron here. And so they're in Archuleta. And here we go. We get them, we got Coley over there, and we start to grow and do it like that. I got a call the other day from the women's, I don't know what they call themselves, Republicans over in Montezuma. And I'm supposed to go over there and talk to them. Me and Tom are gonna go over there and talk to them. See how it kind of just grows that direction? And that's what we really need. And then we go to San Juan County. Robert?
I was just gonna say, whether you're a member or not, that we reset book is good just to have. I mean, you know, for $8, it's well worth the $8.
Right.
It's just a good book to have and read. Here she comes.
Are you bringing Dad a water or me? Oh, Dad's back there. Oh, thank you. Here's part of my posterity right here.
Yeah.
Right there. Yes. It's for them we're doing this. We have to make sure that the freedoms that we enjoyed and are seeing stripped away, that we hold on to those. And I know some of us want to go watch the Avs game, so we're going to wrap this up. So, if there's anybody go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to just put this out there for everybody. It kind of made me a little nervous. On the news, it was Fox News, they talked about the fact that Kristi Noem had vetoed a bill, and she found, or her aides, or whoever found it, it was a paragraph, and it was changing the definition of money, so that, and so that they can eventually take control of our bank accounts.
Yes.
So it's being put into 20 states, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Colorado is one of them.
Yes.
So I let Marion Tone know, she's really great with legislation, she's looking on her legislative team, and she's
Good.
keeping an eye out, but that is happening as we speak.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, what's the last one they did on the guns? You can't fire your own weapon on your own piece of land.
I hope people are writing to their legislators about that, are people writing in?
Right.
About that, are you guys writing to your
But
legislators?
the whole idea is a grand jury can fix that because it's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And so you get a grand jury in, and we start going after the prosecutors, the judges, because the one thing that you're going to read, if you're part of the grand jury, and it used to happen, my uncle was on the grand jury in Texas, in Lamb County, Texas, and Littlefield. And the whole idea is the grand jury is equal to the judge in that building. That's how much power you have. You have the power to call for anyone in that courthouse to get you information you want. You want information on that sheriff, then they're apt to give you the information on that person.
So
You have great power.
So the grand jury, they really need to have training, do they need to have a certificate or something, do they need?
Actually,
classes?
that's what that book, no, you're volunteered to go to that. In some states, they run it off of the elections that you've already had. If you're on the voter roll, then you can be chosen, just like they do now on a regular jury. They just pull them out of the hat. But you can also, Robert?
So, who's our sheriff and how is our sheriff? So for example, the reason I say that, and one thing that's got me worried is Biden handed over all of our medical decision-making to the WHO if Biden stipulates an emergency youth authorization, meaning that all of our medical departments, agencies, universities have no say. The World Health Organization, if Biden says it's an emergency use, they can come in and say, mandatory this, mandatory that, by law, or we'll lock you up.
Yeah.
Where does our sheriff
He's a
stand?
He's a Democrat.
I know,
Sean.
but does he stand for the Constitution?
Brought
No.
the Biden bus to Durango.
What's that?
Our sheriff brought the Biden bus to Durango.
Sean
Yep.
Smith.
Sean Smith,
The
yes.
Biden bus.
When 20.
He's-
I saw it.
He says he's constitutional, but he's not.
He is not.
Not whatsoever.
He did that with Polis.
They all say
And
that.
he told his
I know he went to the FBI training school 3 years, no, 7 years
That's
ago.
right.
Sean Smith did?
Yes.
We haven't been able to find anybody to run against him. Anybody that serves with him right now, tries to run against him, he can pretty much just get them, fire them right down the spot. Just whenever he wants to run against him,
Yeah, and there's some great information in some of those books about the sheriff.
I'm not sure when he comes out. Do you know when he
Well,
comes
the
out?
sheriff is the key to the Constitution.
Right.
I guess that's my whole point for bringing this up. The sheriff is the one that enforces the Constitution. We have a lot of people in the United States that are in office that don't support or know the Constitution.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's the problem.
The sheriff elected for 4 years?
Yes, he was just elected on this last cycle.
Just reelected.
I was just gonna say really quick, Jan Smith, who's the coroner, is the only one that can fire the sheriff.
Yes.
Yes.
And she's Republican.
So just keep that in your.
The coroner.
The coroner can fire the sheriff.
And the coroner, by what we understood not too long ago, they could also call for a grand jury.
Nice.
Yeah.
Coroner has a lot of powers.
Yeah. Does have a lot of power. Nobody wants that. Yeah.
We have a sheet.
We get all kinds of civic lessons.
I think the coroner, she's gonna be done, and we have a Republican that is running for coroner on the next.
Yeah, because the lady, I love her to death, but she's a little
But
ancient.
I do believe Hope is gonna run for coroner.
Really?
Yes.
Sweet.
Great.
All right. Anybody else? I just want to I appreciate all of y'all coming and being part of this. And I hope you'll join and be part of that too, because like I said, we need to stand together, and we're not gonna be able to do this if we don't get the numbers.
Yep. On here, I wanna say, is he's saying that if you have a medical emergency,
Yes.
I mean, that could be medical FEMA camps and you're.
Absolutely.
That's what's coming.
They just come to your door and say, well, you're unfit mentally.
Did you hear about the New York governor who's trying to reinstitute the camps?
I believe it.
I'd like to point out that if you're not sure you want to join or not, you can pay just $5 a month, and after 1 month, if you decide it's not for you, just don't pay anymore. So it really only costs you $5 to have access to all this information, to find out more about us, if that's the way you want to go. It's $50 a year, or $5 a month.
And Kayla can sign you up, and I can sign you up on my phone, we'll just do it for you.
Yeah, we got another computer here we're gonna pull there. All right, are we ready to dismiss?
Yes.
Richard Westbrook, would you dismiss us, please? Could you dismiss us, Richard? You bet. Thank you.
Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all the many blessings. We thank you for the blessing of living in a free country, and we thank you for our founding fathers and our Constitution. And we ask that you would give us wisdom as we try to steer our country back to the course that it should be on. Help us to be wise in our decision making, and bless us as we endeavor and down that road, and go with us and bless our Congress and our president and our governors and all those that are in authority, that they would make good and wise choices, and that they would honor you in their decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Your friends for being here.
Thanks for joining us at this meeting.
Recording stopped.
I've never been to one of these before. I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream. So press for transparency. Thanks for checking out this meeting. Not sure what you all thought about it. I mean,
I don't know if any. Yeah, Shelley and them were here last time. Will wasn't, but Shelley was. Yes, sir.
yeah, I do agree with voting for your cause. I also agree with taking action elsewhere.
I think I got this.
In whatever kind of civic-minded way you think is best. Well, it's been kind of a long meeting, so I'm gonna get off here. But thanks again for joining. I'm gonna head home and get some dinner. It was good to hear. It's good to read some of the chat throughout the meeting. So thanks for joining. Thanks for commenting on what you thought. Have a good night.